the dust, the roar of rifles echoing through the valley. You're standing on the bluffs, wounded in both legs, watching your comrades fall all around you. Your horses lie dead, your men are desperate for water, and the enemy swarms like a storm without end. This is no history lesson, this is Lieutenant Charles Barnum's memory. Barnum, one of the few survivors of the 7th Cavalry, and in this letter to his parents, he narrated to them the truth that others would never live to write. What if the Battle of the Little Bighorn didn't have to end in massacre? What if one rider, one order, or even one decision at dawn could have changed everything? A forgotten letter from this surviving officer, written on the 4th of July, 1876, gives us clues that history has overlooked. It shows us scouts who saw the danger, commanders who hesitated, and soldiers left stranded while help was just within reach. The question lingers. Was Custer's defeat inevitable, or a tragedy that could have been prevented? This isn't the Custer story you've been told in classrooms or history books. It's raw, unfiltered, and straight from one of the very few who escaped the slaughter. Lieutenant Charles Albert Barnum, a young but battle-tested cavalry officer, wrote to his parents on July 4, 1876, just days after the infamous Battle of the Little Bighorn. His letter, raw and honest, captures both the chaos and the courage of the fight against the Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho. As one of the rare surviving officers of the 7th Cavalry, Barnum's account reveals not only the ferocity of the battle, but also the haunting realities of war for a soldier still finding his place in history. "Dear Father and Mother," Barnum began, writing from camp along the Yellowstone River on Independence Day. He recalled that on June 22nd, General Custer led the regiment, about 605 men strong, plus 36 scouts, guides, and interpreters. They trailed signs discovered by Major Reno, covering miles daily in pursuit of their adversaries. Along the Rosebud River, they found a circle prepared for a sundance and even a fresh scalp hanging on a stick, grim signs of what awaited them. Why did the scouts sense danger so strongly in these early signs? Barnum was ordered to check a creek for tracks, returning to camp only to march on another 8 miles. They camped near an abandoned village 2 days old, proof of the vast force they were chasing. Custer consulted 6 Crow scouts who knew the region well, and they confirmed the trail led toward the Little Horn River. Barnum, with 6 Crows, 5 Reese, and 1 frontiersman, pushed through the night, riding nearly 36 sleepless hours, to reach a hill overlooking the valley. At 2:30 a.m., Barnum's party reached the hill and hid among the brush until dawn. When the sun rose, smoke from a vast Indian camp rose in the distance. Scouts estimated 2,000 to 3,000 ponies grazing across the plains. Barnum dispatched a message to Custer, who received it at 8 a.m. As Custer's column advanced, 2 Sioux warriors spotted them. Barnum, with interpreter Charlie Reynolds and 2 Crow scouts, tried to intercept but failed. Their presence was now known. Why did Custer rush forward knowing the enemy had been alerted? By 2:30 p.m., Major Reno led 3 companies, A, G, and M, straight into the village. Barnum joined Company A as they dismounted to fight on foot, only to be surrounded and driven back. They fled through the timber to higher ground, pursued relentlessly. In the chaos, Lieutenants McIntosh and DeRudio went missing, and Lieutenant Hodgson was killed. By the time Reno regrouped, more than a third of his command was gone. Why did Reno's charge collapse so quickly? Colonel Benteen soon arrived with 3 companies, along with the pack train, bringing the total to about 300 men. Gunfire thundered from Custer's distant position, but Reno's battered forces dared not advance further. Their defensive position on the bluffs offered safety for horses and wounded, but it also trapped them under near-constant fire. That night they endured waves of attack. The young soldiers hardened into grim veterans in only hours. With more than 40 wounded lying in a makeshift hospital shielded by mules and horses, the lack of water became unbearable. Soldiers risked their lives making runs to the river under heavy fire. Many were killed or maimed in the attempt. The stench of death spread, and morale cracked under heat, thirst, and swarms of flies. Yet they held on, determined not to break. Why risk men's lives for water when every drop was fatal to fetch? By June 26th, the firing slowed as the native encampment began to move. At dawn, Barnum's men realized why. The warriors had dispersed as General Terry approached with reinforcements. By mid-morning, Terry arrived with infantry and cavalry, joined by Crow scouts who had escaped. At last, the truth became clear. Custer and his entire command were annihilated. The ground was littered with nearly 300 dead, many stripped and mutilated. 16 officers were killed, including Custer, his brothers, and trusted lieutenants. Barnum himself was lightly wounded in both legs during the fighting. For families back home, the losses were devastating. Mrs. Custer lost her husband and 2 brothers-in-law, while Mrs. Calhoun lost her husband, 3 brothers, and a nephew. How did the families of officers bear such concentrated loss? Barnum closed his letter with grim reflection. Half the officers were dead, the regiment shattered. He now commanded the remnants of Company the 1, barely elevated yet forced into leadership. He noted General Sheridan's warning against dividing forces, ignored at a fatal cost. Facing an enemy he estimated at 4,000 strong, Barnum acknowledged the scale of what they faced. Yet he reassured his parents, signing off as their loving son. And so, from Barnum's trembling hand, we glimpse a battle that was more than just Custer's last stand. It was a collision of warnings unheeded, courage tested, and decisions that sealed the fate of hundreds. The contrast is stark. Where one letter survived, an entire command was silenced. The core tragedy remains. Was this truly destiny written in blood, or was it human arrogance that turned opportunity into disaster? History books call it inevitable. But Barnum's letter whispers otherwise. So I'll leave you with this. Was Custer defeated by overwhelming numbers or by his own refusal to listen? The answer may change how we see not only the man, but the myth itself.